Are you guys seeing the narrative there? So obviously we've got Ohio State fans primarily in the chat. So we've seen about 10 or 12 score predictions, all Ohio State winning. But what I hear from the national media, I can't think of any major service, any particular analyst on a national scale that's picking Ohio State to win. Clemson seems to be getting all the lean, not that people think that it's going to be a mismatch like the other semifinal could be, but that Ohio State's a very capable team, but they're relying on that Clemson experience to pull them through.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, because I'm kind of in a cocoon here, but I have not seen, even before I left, I haven't seen really any national guys picking Ohio State. It's like it's a 2-point line, but it would seem like it's Clemson by 12 or 14, the way there is such uniformity on the side of the Tigers.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to do a column probably here in the next 18 hours at some point and get it out there. And I'm going to list them chapter and verse. I'm going to say Dennis Dodd said this, Ralph Russo from the AP said that. The names are going to be attached to the score predictions, and we're going to find out who's right and who's wrong. It's really funny. I have a copy of the Miami Herald at my house from January the 3rd of 2003. And I got to know their lead reporter from the Miami Herald. And the Miami Herald was a big deal back then. I'm sure it's still, somewhat relevant today. But I got to know him, and he asked me my score prediction. I was covering the team for Buckeye Sports Bulletin at the time. And they ran, as part of their package, a little table that had maybe 20 score predictions. And out of those 20 or 25 score predictions, it was myself, Tim May of the Columbus Dispatch picked Ohio State. I don't remember what my score was for that Miami game. A guy by the name of Sean Dunster from a Cincinnati television station. And this will also tell you there is some other media here. I think Cincinnati has one TV station here, and Dayton with Mike Hartsock is here, and the 3 Columbus stations are here. But, in those days, 15, 16 years ago, you would have had the network affiliates from all of the major cities in Columbus or in Ohio would have been there. Sean Dunster was the cameraman, and he for the Cincinnati WCPO or whatever. And the guy from the Herald just bumped into him at the whatever and said, "Hey, give me your prediction." They became friendly, and he predicted Ohio State. And William Roden, I think he was of the New York Times, he picked Ohio State. So the 4 of us out of 20-some picks had Ohio State to beat Miami. I still have it as a souvenir. And, whether, you say, "Oh, I'm a homer," or whatever, that's fine. But I can tell you, if I had it in front of me, I could tell you what the Dodds and the 40s and the Stewie Mandels and all these guys had to say about it. And it wasn't pretty. So that we got the same thing going here. Ohio State played one bad half of football, and it just is in everyone's recent memory. They were behind 21-7. And I think people are of a mind that if Ohio State plays anything like that in this game, they're going to get blown out. And, you look at those ESPN, it's all the Clemson Tiger Paw, or whatever that thing is, all across there, lined up one after another. So, I guess they're going to play the game tomorrow. Like I joked last week, this is foolish. This is a fool's errand here. They should just ship the trophy to Clemson. I mean, they won it last year, for God's sake. I mean, what do they have to win it again?
Well, it's not nearly as good a story, Steve, but I was tied with about 7 or 8 people at work that particular year for bowl predictions, and that was the tiebreaker, and I was the only one out of the 7 or 8 that picked Ohio State, so I won the pool.
Awesome.
But you know that you're going to have to go to the link in the description section to get my prediction to add it to your list, Steve. So,
okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course, you get exclusive rights to the prediction.
Yes,
Tony.
Clemson is claiming the disrespect that Dabo has been preaching from their not being in the first or second place, or them not being able to be afforded a loss. And J.K. Dobbins a few days ago said Ohio State was by far the most disrespected team. And you look at these picks, and there's only one coach that would be able to use the disrespect card, and I do wonder how much Ryan Day will use this where nobody expects you to win, because even like as Steve said, that first practice this week he was very animated, and the second one was a little bit more chill. This is also a guy from Urban Meyer's coaching tree. The first time Ohio State and Florida met here back in Glendale in 2006, Urban was printing out fake curb string quotes for his team to read about how Ohio State was going to destroy Florida. So there's ways to use actual media stuff, and there's ways to use fictitious media stuff. And I do wonder how much of that Brian Day will be using, even though he said that people can say what they want, they're not really focused on that. But any little bit you can use to give your team an edge, to get that chip on their shoulder, which is such a cliche, but coaches love it. You want an angry team. And I don't know if Ohio State is angry, but I wouldn't say they're in a great mood, because J.K. Dobbins, for instance, who is arguably the best running back in the nation, is getting ignored for pretty much all of the awards. So many All-American teams. I think he may get a tree in Buckeye Grove by one of these All-American teams, if I'm correct. But like none of the major ones have reached, put him there. That's a sticking point with him, and I'm sure he's not alone in this. Ohio State will be, we'll see how much of that card Ryan Day plays, but it's there to be played, I think.
And you guys are in a difficult position yourselves in regards to publicizing your predictions. You cover Ohio State football. You could get tagged with being a homer if you continue to pick them to win all the time, which they basically do win all the time, like 90+% of their games. So it's kind of difficult not to, but at the same time, you want to be objective, but you're going to get a backlash regardless. And obviously, if you pick against the Buckeyes and then they win, then you didn't trust the team, you don't know what you're talking about, and so forth and so on. And I'm sure you guys have stories of all sorts of backlash that you've received.
I still get crap for picking Michigan to beat Ohio State in 2005.
The statute of limitations will never run out on that, Gerd.
No.
Not on the Michigan game, it don't.
No. I've probably on a handful of games picked against Ohio State, but I guess what I need to do is go back and research which games they were, because and here's the thing. I mean, they're usually the higher rated team when they play these games, typically. I mean, they're a favorite, so many times. I mean, you go back to 2014, they were not favored against Wisconsin. They were not favored against Alabama. They weren't favored against Oregon, but they won all those games, and I'm certain I picked Ohio State to win them all. I know I picked them to beat Alabama. And as my recollection on that was, I thought Alabama was very good, but I didn't feel I think Sims was their quarterback that year. I didn't feel that it was a vintage year for Alabama, maybe in that regard. So I don't know. Looking at this game, I mean, people are picking Clemson, but I don't think a lot of people are picking them to blow Ohio State out. I think they're just picking them to win the game. And it's a 2-point favorite, which means it's essentially a pick 'em, a pick the winner of the game situation. So I'm more inclined to go with Ohio State just because I feel like they've got the edge in special teams. I think their offensive line is going to line up and dominate that matchup with the Clemson defensive line and create creases for J.K. Dobbins. But going back to what you guys discussed earlier with Kevin, that if Fields is not healthy and there's no threat that Fields is going to run the football, then Clemson can tee off on J.K. Dobbins, and that creates a problem because, like we saw in the Wisconsin game and some of the games, there weren't many that they struggled. They fell behind and down a distance, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. Those are hard to manage. So you want to get ahead. You want to get 5-6 yards on first down. So now the entire playbook is available, and you can, like you're ordering off a menu on those new kiosks at McDonald's, or you're, picking out, furniture for your house or whatever online. You got the whole array right there that you can choose from. And to me, that's what's going to be critical for Ohio State.
We talked to Urban Meyer yesterday. He was hanging around, and then we all latched on to him like vultures, and he couldn't get away from us. But he was talking about the first 7 minutes of the game being so critical because these are two teams who haven't faced anybody like these two teams. These are the best teams they're going to face. And So it's basically the first two drives of the game for each team. He wanted to see how it turns out because who can handle the pressure, who can handle getting punched in the face, and if you get a score there, now you've got some momentum. But like his concern for Ohio State and for both teams was, can you get those first two first downs? That calms everything down, but then it also allows you to flip the field if you need to punt. And he said, one thing you can't do is give up a mindless play, and now you're backed up in your own territory, and you punt, and now you've given the opponent the ball at midfield, and now they have a much easier road than you did to scoring, and now they've got the momentum. So he was very interested in seeing how those first 7 minutes went, those first two possessions, and that's what Urban Meyer's concerns is getting field position in order to punt. Ryan Day is latched onto that as well. That's the Urban Meyer plan to win that is carried forward with Ryan Day, and it's very trestle bally when you talk about we need 2 first downs because our goal is to punt, and that's kind of it's almost sacrilegious to say when you're an offensive scoring nearly 50 points per game, but that's kind of the first goal is find some room to punt, and then if you can score instead, great.